This episode of Vic's Basement is brought to you by Sony and the PlayStation 4, which comes out November 15th. Greatness awaits, and I can't wait for mine. Welcome to my basement, everybody. Hello, Mr. Scott Jones. We're back in Vancouver.
Victor Lucas, we are back in Vancouver, but for how long?
That is the question.
For how long?
Well, I'm here for at least a couple of weeks, I think, but you are going to New York.
You screwed me on New York.
Yeah.
You were supposed to come with me. We were supposed to stay together.
I've been traveling too much, and I had to come off of the road. I know, but I got a baby. I miss my daughter. I've got my own
problems.
Your cats are fine, man.
It's not cats. I've got other things. I'm trying to find a relationship. How am I going to ever fall in love if I leave this, if I'm never in the city?
Do you know how many sexy cosplay ladies you're going to see in New York? You have to go and talk to sexy cosplay ladies and convince one of them to move back to Vancouver to be with you.
Speaking of New York City, I read this thing about Neil Patrick Harris. He's on Broadway now, and he is an entertainer.
Yes, he is.
He just turned 40.
Is he single?
He looks like he's 39.
Right.
He looks great.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this because we're performers. We're on TV every day,
right.
24 hours a day.
Yeah.
We got a radio show now. We got a web show. We got every fucking kind of show. Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to swear anymore. We're not swearing anymore on the podcast.
Oh, we are. It's fine.
Okay. That one slipped in.
That's okay.
He does this. He does these like Chinese breathing exercises before he goes on every night.
Okay.
For like 20 minutes, and then he shotguns a Red Bull. Boom, hits the stage.
Wow.
And sometimes we come in here, we do EP in the morning, and we haven't even had coffee yet.
I know. And it's hard.
Chinese breathing exercises.
It's hard to do it without the coffee,
Red
man.
Bull.
Yeah, I know. But sometimes we have to do it because we have a screening or something that we got to race to, and that's when the coffee comes.
You know, so I am going to New York. You know, it's the greatest city in the world.
Yes, it is.
They don't call it that for nothing.
That's right.
And I have been to Montreal, which was great. And then I went to Tokyo, which was like science fiction.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I feel like we dreamed that whole thing. I was talking to Colin, one of our guys who went to Tokyo with us, and I said, remember when this happened? He's like, I really don't.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, maybe it didn't really happen.
We had a long time over there, and it is kind of blurry now, isn't it?
It's all a blur.
I know. But it is a science fiction city, and there was something that obviously everybody talks about that's a cliche about how it's all functional out there, but there's also a tremendous amount of form. Like every ounce of energy is accounted for. Even when we walk up to the automatic doors, they don't open until you're right there. They
it's
don't
like
just
the Halo doors. They always take a second before they open.
But they open right when the human body is going to go through, so that it's not expelling extra energy and extra heat or cooling from the building. Like everything is thought of to be practical and to be sustaining and to be efficiently spaced. I mean, we were inside of bathrooms that were literally smaller than closets. Like honestly, but it all fit and it worked.
Well, the other thing I love about being there, we didn't talk about this last week from your hotel room.
Yeah.
I can't believe we were just there. It seems so weird to me. And we're both suffering from jet lag horribly in ways that will go unnamed on the show. But I can't get to sleep at night. I can't wake up in the morning.
Yeah. But Grand Theft Auto 5 has kept us busy.
But no, I'm not done with Tokyo yet.
Okay, all right.
Okay, it's the gamification of everything. We had a couple of guys from the office. Well, Jason Fairbrother and Colin. Yeah. They would go to the arcades at night. You and I were in bed, and we had to put our toupees on the resting post and everything so we could get our sleep. but they would go to the arcades, and they found a urinal that was a game. You could pee into the urinal, and you had to hit a target, and then water would come out of the nose of the character on the
we went to a
screen.
Sushi place that had a Shinkansen, one of the bullet trains, deliver you the sushi. You used an iPad to choose the thing, which was a game itself, and then there's like little cats and stuff on it, and then you'd press order, and then lights and bells and things would happen, and a train would come out, and there's your sushi plate.
It would make the train sound as it came out too.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Fuchsia.
It was really cool.
Yeah, I'm glad to be home though.
Yeah, and I you know what I really noticed this time too that I haven't really had time to pay attention to, and I think it was the length of time that we were there, were the buildings and the architecture and the variances of them, from district to district, because we stayed in Shinagawa and we also stayed in Daiba, and we got to see, obviously the giant Gundam mech, and we got to see the sort of future. It looks like the Citadel from Mass Effect in Shinagawa. It's just so futuristic and cool. And I was taking pictures and little bits of video of everybody, rushing to get onto the subway trains and everything. And it just is. it's unbelievably elegant how they've had to deal with this massive population in a tiny amount of space. It's mind-boggling. Well, it's overwhelming.
The problem is not going to go away either.
No.
People are making more people all the time, and that city is getting more and more crowded. And speaking of intriguing cities, what about the city of Los Santos?
That was a surreal thing to, try to stay awake, because we came back on the last Friday.
Yeah.
And
we picked up Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto 5
is the thing. We got off the plane at 8:30 in the morning. We went and picked up our copies of Grand Theft Auto.
We went in the office,
and you have to load it to the hard drive, put in disk 2. I did that, and I fell asleep chin first on my chest.
No, I did. I stayed up. I was right into it. And Franklin is just swearing up a storm and calling everybody the N-word, and his buddy is just annoying. And I'm like, oh my God. I just felt like the game was yelling at me, and then I'm shooting at people, and I'm playing Michael for a bit, and he has terrible kids that just drove me nuts. And it was ugly. It was so ugly after the beauty and the elegance and the respectfulness of Tokyo to jump into the world of Grand Theft Auto 5. It was like someone was shaking me, which helped me stay awake, quite frankly. And for the first chunk of the game, I was like, oh my God, this is just not letting up. Like, it's not breathing. I don't really care about these gross cartoon characters that are just so awful. They were just awful people. But then I think after the third or fourth hour, it starts to have a little air in its lungs, and it starts to breathe a bit. And then Trevor comes into the picture, and he's more obnoxious than what has come. But by then, you're into the rhythms of the game, and this is a game that relentlessly abundant in choice and things to do, and even the mission structure, although it's not always perfect, is way stronger than it's ever been in Grand Theft Auto. So you do feel like this fishhook pull all the way through with, again, a different kind of elegance, a sort of, a violent elegance. But it's riveting. It's riveting stuff, and it's just so well manufactured. You can see Rockstar's patterns, and that kind of drives me nuts too, because it's like they have a reputation to uphold as opposed to a creative, entity to build. But it's still irrefutably amazing. I mean, it's just something you cannot ignore, this thing.
No, you can't ignore it, and I think that's the strongest thing you can say about it. I haven't loved my time with GTA 5 so far, and maybe part of it was I wasn't part of the first wave. I didn't play it when it first came out.
Right.
And I read a lot about it before it came out.
Yeah. Which is a mistake, but it's hard not to because everybody's talking about it.
Well, and I've really been kind of worn out with open world games. I finished the first 2 Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City. I played both to death, and I really haven't felt that fishhook pull, to use your metaphor, through San Andreas, GTA 4, any of the DLC. I admire it, and I still admire GTA 5, and I think the writing is excellent. And I didn't feel the ugliness. I knew it was going to be ugly, maybe, and maybe I was bracing myself for the ugliness of it all. But I didn't find it ugly. I just keep looking for. The thing I always love about these games is when I start to feel the city as a character, and I start looking for landmarks, and I start finding my way through, not by following the map with my eyes, but by following the city itself. And I'm still looking at the map, which means I don't care enough about the city yet. That could still happen. I mean, I'm still pretty early. We haven't reviewed it on the show. We're going to get to it as soon as possible. Sean and Marissa did a great job with their first try at it. I can't believe the incredible that they got that game into their bellies and digested it and made that incredible review.
Yeah, it was very entertaining.
They did that.
Yeah, they're a pro team. They're amazing.
So, but speaking of anti-heroes, Walter White is done.
And in all senses of the word.
That's it. And that's part of the, whenever we see the finale, and if you haven't seen it yet, don't listen to what we're going to say. But whenever you see the finale of any show, there's a weird sadness that permeates every aspect of it, because you're like, they didn't make any more of this. Every second that ticks by, in that last 55 minutes, this is all there's ever going to be.
It was the second to last episode that really affected me, when he stole Holly.
That was a much better episode.
And or the third to last one. Yeah, the one before he went out on
Those
the lam.
were all better episodes.
I busted out crying, because he was a desperate father that had really fucked up and had really screwed everything up to be, completely separated from his family, and his last-ditch effort is to try to steal his baby daughter from the clutches of her mom. And I was just devastated by that. And then the second to last episode with him being holed up north, and just this desperate loneliness, and Robert Forster giving him the chemotherapy and all that stuff was really hard. And then this was it was a nice, tidy 55-minute tying up the, wrapping up a bow on the whole series. I think they did a very they did it in a. They did have some really smart resolutions there. But I think I'd gotten over the emotional hump, and I kind of had stopped really caring what happened to him, because
I can hear it in your voice.
He's just a bastard, and he deserved every second of awful shit that happened to him, because it became this monster, And frankly, Jesse surviving is not cool for me either. Jesse deserved to be killed as well. He was also a heinous criminal that did awful things and completely abused, friendships and innocent people,
Well, mostly I'm mad at Jesse for driving through that neighborhood, throwing all of his money away.
Wow.
So stupid.
I mean, it is a kind of a perverse thrill to dig what these criminals do and think about the ways that they're going to get away with it. And this goes all the way back into, early literature and through awesome movies like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. But, I really started to despise this. And I think it's because we're living in a culture right now where there's so much of it in our face. And it's a post-Sopranos culture where we're celebrating awful attitudes and awful lifestyles.
Well, we're not celebrating. We're exploring them. I think the nature of being a human being is we're conflicted.
Yes, we are.
We want to do good things, but we also can't deny the fact that sometimes we want to do some bad things.
And if you're making drama, it's pretty boring if you don't go into these dark places. I understand it, but we just get so much of it. And Grand Theft Auto is looped into that as well.
I'm okay with it, because I feel like that speaks to me more than watching.
Well, I'm watching that Ray Donovan. I'm watching Dexter. I'm watching Homeland. I'm watching, Breaking Bad. There's probably a couple other ones.
You're not watching Breaking Bad anymore.
Well, I was. Mad Men is filled with just disgusting people. I mean, it just feels like who are the virtuous characters out there? And
listen,
who really can we get behind?
We'll talk about that.
And another one.
Another
right?
one.
Yeah.
I was disappointed by the finale.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to be disappointed.
It's a hard act to follow.
You can't.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. It's incredible what Vince Gilligan did to sustain this character over 5 seasons, 5.5 seasons, however long they did it. And you know what? They quit while they were ahead, because he could have put it in cruise control and done 2 more seasons.
Oh, easily.
Easily, because there was more stuff there to unpack. There were more storylines to explore.
I don't know though.
They got out while they were ahead, and I'll tell you what. This last episode felt perfunctory.
Rushed. You're right.
And it felt like a shopping list to me. It felt like we need to do this, and this. And all of the art, which is all I've ever loved about Breaking Bad, the weird shit with the imagery and the plane crash and all that was gone from the last episode. There's no time for art. All we had was time to just wrap everything up.
Convenient that the neo-Nazis were all huddled together in the exact same place for the automated gun to take them all out.
There were so many melodramatic moments that they had to create because they had to give fans what they wanted.
Right.
And you could feel... And that's what I didn't like about it. I could feel the creators of the show wanting to make sure that fans walked away happy, and that makes me unhappy. I wanted Vince Gilligan to do what he wanted to do and to not worry about us.
It's a logically smart, intelligent episode, but it didn't resonate with the same emotional truths that it had before. And at the end result is that you are, in your mind, you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. It's all done. But you walk away...
I'm forgetting it already.
Yeah, and you also walk away a little sad and disappointed at the end. It didn't make me feel good. It made me feel like, okay, that was an excellent series overall, but I wasn't. There's no uplift.
But I think it's almost asking him to deliver a finale that had that artfulness to it, that maybe ended in a more ambiguous place. I don't know. I still think that the finale of The Sopranos, we will always talk about that.
Well, dude, I think we need to do a whole show dedicated to our favorite finales. But right now, it is time to switch back.
Finales, I like that.
Yeah, it's time to switch back to video games, and specifically a concert tour celebrating video games. One in particular, it's the Legend of Zelda. There is a kick-ass concert series out there called the Legend of Zelda Symphony of the Goddesses. It's about to go on its second quest, and we are here with Jason Michael Paul, who is the executive producer of this concert series. First of all, congratulations, Jason, on launching the series and having it be so well attended that you are working with Nintendo to bring it back to people.
yeah, it's coming back to Vancouver for the second time in 2 years, and as if the first quest wasn't enough, we're on our second quest, like you had said, and we're really excited. Except for this time, we're coming with new material, Wind Waker HD, Skyward Sword. We're also performing the show with the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, which is a great orchestra, and it's at the Orpheum again.
What is it about Zelda that you can do a whole show around the franchise? You know, every other video game tour that we see out there, you have to have a whole bunch of different types of music.
Yeah,
but with Zelda,
like that Video Games Live, which is good.
Video Games
I
Live.
haven't seen it, but I've heard it's good.
And Jason worked with Square in the past. But what is it about Zelda that makes it accessible for everybody? And there's enough sort of music in the franchise to make it good and work for everyone.
Yeah, well, this is a franchise that spans over 27 years, so you get a lot to pull from, and I think it's over 15 titles or 15 games that have been released. And Koji Kondo is a genius, quite frankly, and so we've had a lot of fun working with Chad Sider, my music director, and also Jaron Moore, my lead producer, and we've been just kind of playing, pulling what we like, getting feedback from the fans. What's unique about this show that Chad Sider's done is he's pretty much kind of treated as a Hollywood project. He's responsible he did Ratatouille, The Incredibles, a lot of work. He worked under Michael Giacchino, and so he really knows the franchise inside and out, and so he's really been able to deliver a very unique musical experience of Legend of Zelda. And what's unique about the show too, it's the first time a 4-movement symphony has ever been performed that's dedicated to a franchise like the Legend of Zelda. So it's really cool, and what we've done is we've actually created the music so that it's in total sync with the visuals.
Oh, there's visuals. So there's like a big screen?
Yeah, so
I got to see this thing.
We have an 18 by 30 foot screen. It's huge. It's a giant screen, and we have just the visual. It's like little mini movies of Zelda. So just imagine like kind of how you always imagine the music from Zelda could sound if you had like a real orchestra performing it. This is what it is, except for the backdrop is the visuals from the game, and it's cool.
Now, I would imagine that a lot of the fans get really excited, maybe a little too excited. Do people usually, what's their routine when they show up for these concerts? Are they dressed as Princess Zelda and as the young boy Zelda? Link?
Link, not young boy Zelda. You screwed it all up.
There's men, our age that are coming in costumes.
Really?
Yeah, only people who dress up in costume. Cosplay is a big thing. Usually Princess Zelda, Ganon, or Link.
Oh, Ganon! Who would think to dress up as Ganon?
That's awesome. And you're using, symphony orchestra, people, real sort of accomplished professional musicians. What do they think about all of this crazy video game stuff? Do they have a good time with it, or does it kind of freak them out a bit?
Wouldn't they rather be playing Tchaikovsky's overtures?
Right. Yeah. Well, they actually once they start, once they do it, there's no turning back at that point, and then they kind of embrace it. They see what this could mean to the future of orchestras, and you can't run away from success, and the fact of the matter is this is a whole new audience that's coming into these venues. The VSO, really, like they don't get this young of a crowd, and as enthusiastic of a crowd, so it just really breathes new life into these orchestras.
That's great. Now, Koji Kondo has created a whole bunch of fantastic music over the years, but he's always been, kind of limited in the voices that he uses because he's always been a MIDI composer. He's always built for cartridge. And that's sort of stayed true even up into the Wii era. I think Skyward Sword is probably the most sumptuous soundtrack of all the Zelda games. But do you think the concert tour has kind of inspired he and his musical team to kind of reach a little bit further and to start using more symphony kind of scores with their music?
That's the hope. My company was responsible for producing and doing the recording, the orchestral CD that accompanied the Skyward Sword release.
Right.
So we also did a full 3D HD presentation that we recorded when we were doing the recording. Really cool. And so, I would hope that Koji Kondo can continue to use an orchestra to really deliver the soundtrack for these games. I mean, a lot of other composers are starting to do that, and it's starting to catch on, and you just get a better product. You get a more it's just a better sound. You get a better product. It's a more genuine experience. So that's the hope.
Well, do you ever have people who maybe they bought tickets thinking they were going to see a traditional symphony that night, maybe like Mr. and Mrs. Howell, with monocles in, and they're like, oh, boy, we thought we were going to see some Schubert, and then they get up and leave?
Yeah, there's been, I'm not gonna kid you. Some people have not really appreciated it, but those people are not really our fans. Those aren't the people that we're playing for.
Yeah.
They're very isolated. But yeah, some people have stumbled into the wrong environment, and then on the opposite end of that, I have people that have they were visiting a city and they just decided to go to a concert with the orchestra, and they just happened to go and see this show, and those are the type of letters that I get from fans. Wow, we stumbled in this venue not knowing what to expect, and we walked away with not only this finer appreciation for video games, but also particularly The Legend of Zelda.
You've been here before. You're coming on October 16th. You've been to Vancouver before. You've traveled across Canada. Tell us about some of these places that you visited. Where have you been in the world, and who was the most surprising audience to play for?
Edmonton, probably.
No, I love Canada. So Toronto is an amazing audience. Montreal, they sang like hockey chants at the encores. It's kind of crazy. That was cool. The crowd was rocking and they were really into it. But surprisingly, Latin America, Mexico is one of the craziest. They're amazingly enthusiastic, and they've shown us a lot of love, more recently. But no, Canada, I think Montreal was the most memorable. I think just the response from those fans, it was seriously like being at a hockey game.
Oh man, they are passionate Canadians.
Well, then they love video games in Montreal.
That's true. They do, and they're artists, and they like to emote.
Yes.
So all of it adds up to crazy response from the audience. I have to ask you a question though.
Yeah.
You're on the road a lot. You're basically a rock star. What sort of groupies do you guys get outside of the stage door? Do you have people waiting for you, ready to service?
Zeldas.
Zeldas and Young Boy Links. And
oh, come on.
Young Boy Zeldas.
Oh, man.
Well,
inappropriate.
Let's just say we're classy.
Okay, that's good. You just want to leave it at that?
Yeah.
No stories? It'll all come out in your memoir?
One of the groupies will write a book. Have you traveled through Japan? What have the Japanese audiences thought of the Zelda music like this?
Yeah, well, I did a show with the Nintendo in Tokyo in commemoration of the 25th anniversary, and it's like night and day. I'm very familiar with Japanese culture. I used to live in Tokyo, and I speak Japanese and read and write, and
awesome.
It's just one of those things where it's just culturally we're so different. It's like very cold and very quiet, and there's very little applause, and it's just it's. So you can't really gauge the response,
No.
It's just like, yeah, I think they appreciate it, but you don't really know. Whereas in America and other parts of the world, they fully appreciate it. And applause is obviously one of those things they appreciate it by. They're not a quiet crowd. The more enthusiastic they are, the more it seems like they appreciate it. So.
Well, we just got back from Tokyo. We were there for 10 days working on a project. And maybe you can explain this for me, but all the cab drivers wear white gloves. Why?
Well, there's also a lot of cab drivers that wear masks as well.
That's true. They do. Just the surgical mask.
And you don't open the door for yourself. They actually open it for you.
No, I closed my door by accident, and I
got our hand slapped.
Yeah, that was bad.
No, they wear white gloves because they're very conscious. They're conscious of germs.
Yeah, well, and they're the people there seem to be really compassionate and really considerate of other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's classy.
Yeah, it's classy.
We do seem to.
But they want to be cool. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. They would just wear one white glove then if they wanted to be cool. But listen, if we have entered a really strange period in pop culture when it comes to video game music, because I feel like we've gotten to a point now. I've gotten to a point where on my iTunes playlist I have a number of Koji Kondo tunes that will just sort of get woven into the fabric of all of my playlists going forward. And I think that what's made maybe happened here is enough time has elapsed since 1986 and 1987 when all of those tunes have, you know, they kind of have that nostalgic glow about them now, right?
Yeah.
You're rolling. But
I kind of missed that.
Oh, okay. It wasn't very interesting anyway.
I kind of missed that only because I got a little sidetracked.
Oh, what happened? Are you trying to tweet?
I'm sorry. No, I didn't tweet. I sincerely apologize.
That's okay.
Ask it again.
Please ask it again.
Are we okay? Here we go. Ask it again.
Please.
Will you ever do a Punch-Out tour?
What?
Punch-Out.
Punch-Out?
Yeah, there's great music in Punch-Out. Was that Koji Kondo as well?
You know,
Probably.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
There's a bar in San Francisco called Soda Popemski.
Oh, no. Really?
Would you go there?
Would I go
based on
there?
the name?
Would I what? Say the last part?
Would you go there based on that name alone?
Yes. Why not?
Well, then there's your answer. I would do a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out concert.
Oh, how exciting would that be?
Well,
King Hippo's theme.
Yeah, and that's my question. You've done a tour with Square, and you worked with a very strict Japanese company. You got to work with all the Final Fantasy themes and all that. Now you've worked with Nintendo, and you've cracked through some of the barriers there, and you've probably got to know some of the people in Kyoto, which is unbelievably cool. But what do you want to do now? Are there other video game tours that you want to build and
Punch-Out tours?
Yeah, and like how do you improve on Zelda, or
Ernest
where do you
goes to Camp 2 on ice?
Yeah, how do you get a better deal than a Zelda concert tour?
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I actually do have another project in the works that actually is kicking off in Omaha, Nebraska on actually the same day as another show that I have in Edmonton, October 12th.
Yeah.
So it's with the Omaha Symphony, and I basically did a reboot of a show that I had created previously that is actually performed in Vancouver before at the Orpheum. It was called Play, but this is actually called Replay Symphony of Heroes. And I'm really proud of it. It's based on Campbell's monomyth, and it's taking you on the journey of a hero. So it's taking you through the 17 journeys, if you will.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing is I'm using video games to kind of tell this story.
Cool.
So like the Call to Arms, and I'm taking these games to really tell that, and using the arts and the visuals and also the music to really tell that story. And I hired a narrator from the game Dear Esther, which is a pretty wildly popular independent video game. And he's actually providing the voice and the narration as he takes you on this journey.
So symphonies around video games, although they're relatively new, and we've covered a lot of them, we've got a long way to go, I guess. There's a lot more to do. There's a lot more ground to cover.
I think there's an infinite amount of potential with video games in terms of being a pop art phenomenon, musical phenomenon. I think I've really only touched the surface in 2004 when I started this, and I'm hopeful that it'll continue to grow, and the venues will get bigger, the audiences will grow, and more and more gaming companies will get behind this, because to me this is the perfect bridge to target an audience, and it's appreciated. It's showing your appreciation through the music and the visuals by giving this concert to the fans.
Well, you also bring kind of like a little mini festival, I guess, with every time you bring this out, and video gamers are becoming increasingly closed in and downloading their software. So this is a way to kind of gather a community, I guess, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, think about it. I mean, it's just like Star Wars or any other popular franchise. I mean, there's concerts about it. Well, why not have a concert about a video game?
Scott and I have worked out a little musical piece. Can you put us into the show? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Now, the serious question is, tell us a little bit about your musical background. What musically brought you up into this moment in time that made you qualified to be able to be in charge of a project of this scope? And also, what kind of gamer are you? Are you, when you were a kid, what kind of games were you playing? What kind of games are you playing now?
Yeah. I'll start from the beginning. I played instruments as a kid. I studied piano. I studied guitar. I studied percussion. And at a young age, 23, I actually started working with Luciano Pavarotti and the Three Tenors.
Oh, wow.
And staging their concerts worldwide.
Well, not too bad.
Started at the bottom, then.
Not too shabby.
Yeah. So that's kind of what really lent to me being able to do these types of productions and pulling them off. I worked with large orchestras. I worked with soloists. I was very fortunate. And that was really what propelled me in my career. And all the while I was also working in the video game industry. So I was doing, I was working with Sony PlayStation primarily out of Foster City, was the company that I had signed on to out of college when I was 21, was doing environmental design and environmental media and handling all the trade shows and all the special events for PlayStations. When they had a lot of money, you know, they were throwing big events every year.
They had a lot back then.
Good old times, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
So we were the company responsible for handling all that. And so I kind of combined those experiences with this, you know, opera and classical music. And then I came up with the concept in 2004 and kind of was nurturing a relationship with Square Enix, had a very strong interest in gaming, of course, but also music. And thought this would be a perfect bridge to do that. And so my gaming, you know, obviously I was doing a lot of projects for Square Enix, Kingdom Hearts, and things like that. So, you know, as far as a research, doing research and taking the games home with me and playing, that was the extent of my playing when I was an adult or a young adult, and still to this day. But I've obviously played a ton of, you know, games, much more when I was younger, of course, you know, between the ages of like 8 and, you know, I would say 21. But, you know, like just being in the dorm rooms, you know, I remember a lot of NBA jams, you know, Contra when I was younger, Castlevania, you know, Legend of Zelda.
This guy's got good taste.
Well, and it's awesome that you turn your passion into your job, which is kind of what you and I have done as well, which is great, right? I mean, this is it's an amazing industry that allows people a million different ways in, and you found a very unique one.
Tried to.
Yeah.
But think of all the people out there who do not let their freak flags fly every day the way that we do and that you do.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who buy tickets and come to the concert and dress up as young boy Zelda.
Yeah.
And they let it out for one night.
It's not young boy Zelda.
Sorry.
Jason, I wish you could reach across the TV and bitch slap him. That would be awesome. That would be nice.
Come on.
But listen, the concert is coming to Vancouver on October 16th.
Right.
And then you have dates all the way across
You're
Canada.
Gonna be there?
Yeah, we're going to go.
I'm going to be there.
And you also, you've got, you know, you keep on touring. So where should people go to find out more about the concert?
Well, you can go to the website, www.zelda-symphony.com.
It's a terrible website. It's a hyphen.
Well, it's all right. Zelda-symphony.com.
Get some underscores in there and some ampersands.
Hey, it's, you know, it is what it is. But that'll be a great listing. You know, we also have shows in Calgary and also in Edmonton, the neighboring province. So got to give some love to Alberta as well. You know.
Awesome. Is it still going through the States as well? We have a lot of viewers and listeners in the States too.
We just came off a show in Toronto. And we were in Montreal earlier in the year, so.
Only Canada.
Are you going to the U.S.?
Oh, yeah, we're pretty busy. Stops including New York, Boston, Chicago, San Jose, California. You know, we just did a show in Seattle. You know, we're definitely busy. We're gonna be touring the country. So
awesome. Well, I guess people need to slap Zelda A Link Between Worlds into the 3DS, put it in their pocket, put on their Link caps, and head to the concert.
You
and go
dress as old lady Zelda. I'll dress as young man Zelda.
It's Link.
We'll be at the concert.
There's no young man Zelda.
We'll be at the front row.
It's like he doesn't pay attention.
He's growing up, man. He's been growing up a little bit.
Jason, it's been awesome to have you on the show.
I like it. You guys are great. Keep up the good work.
So that was a ton of fun to talk with Jason Paul Michael. He is a cool guy, and he has built something pretty magical there.
I got to Facebook that guy, and I am definitely going to be up all night sewing together my young Zelda boy costume.
It's not he's not Zelda boy.
I'm sorry, I won't say that.
It's terrible. He's Link. He's got his own name. He's got his own identity. You're taking that away from him.
I know
You're
who
robbing
Link
him
is. I want to go home and play Skyward Sword.
It is weird that it is called Zelda and its Link is the star. Why is that?
Well, she was a big part of the Wind Waker.
Yeah.
And she's not really been much of a part of any of the other games.
Yeah.
But she deserves more.
She deserves her own game.
This is supposedly her game.
Yeah, well, the women of Nintendo need their own titles.
They don't call it Young Boy Zelda.
It's because he's Link. That would be weird if they called it Young Boy Zelda.
Right, I'm confused.
And wait a sec, you know what? They could have a female Link. They could just role reverse everything. That'd be awesome.
So I'm going to New York Comic Con, and do you want me to say hello to anybody?
Say hello to all the Batmen.
Okay.
All right, just walk up and say,
they'll be there.
Hey, Batman, Vic says hi.
I'm not the one wearing hockey pants.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
We will be back next week with a new episode of Vic's Basement.
That's right. You can count on it and listen.
Who knows where we will be?
Stitcher.
Right? Yeah, we're on Stitcher.
Right.
We're on iTunes. We're on our vicsbasement.com website.
You can follow Vic at Victor_Lucas_YoungBoyZelda.
No, it's just Victor_Lucas. Yeah. Don't look for Young Boy Zelda. You will be disappointed by what you will find.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Once again, thank you to Sony and the PlayStation 4 for supporting Vic's Basement. You guys rock.